What's up, folks? Been a while since I put out a video, and I've actually got a couple of videos that I've taken, and I've just not edited them and put them up. And I don't even know if I will. They're just random stuff, but some of them's not even beer related. But I thought I would catch up on what's going on since I do get emails and YouTube messages and such as that to ask me about how it's going and all that. But just got home from work. We've been on 12-hour days at work for a little while, and it's wearing me out. Hate to complain because so many people's out of work. So I don't want to really complain about having to work, but 12-hour days do get long. So I'm enjoying a nice, one of my latest brews. You can eyeball a little bit there. It's really not cleared up. I don't know that it will because it's a rye beer. It's my first rye IPA, and I absolutely love the taste of this beer. Love it. It's actually Denny's rye IPA recipe. It's online in several places, so if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it and want to brew it, just search for Denny's rye IPA. It's a really good beer. I'm getting so many beers that I love that I want to continue to brew. Like right now, I have the rye IPA. And I'm really trying to slow down on these beers and not drink so much of them, so they'll last and condition a little while. The middle tap here is a nut brown ale that's actually turned out better than I thought it would, and I'm actually really going to try to lay off it and let it sit for as long as I can and let it condition. And then, of course, the old Frozen Toes. I still got this last batch of it going. This shouldn't be much left in here. That's the one I brag about so much that I always want to keep in rotation because I love it so much. The Nut Brown, I missed my mash temps a little bit. It's supposed to be like in the 154, 155 range, and I think I hit 150, 151, which isn't a big difference, but enough to give it probably a little bit more drier taste than I would like in a Nut Brown Ale. Would like a little more mouthfeel in it, and but as it's carbonated, it made a difference. You know, when you first trying beer, if they're not really carbonated, they're going to taste a little thin anyway. So we'll see how that one does after a while. But the rye IPA will definitely be in my rotation. I'll go ahead and talk about what the title of this video is probably going to say, and that's that I hate my kegerator. Yeah, how about that after all the work I've done and modifications I've made with starting off with I started off with two taps inside, or two taps is all I had when I first built this thing. And if you remember, you may not remember, the CO2 tank was inside along with the two gauges. When I added a third gauge, it was all inside the third tap. Then I moved the CO2 tank outside, and that gave me a little more room inside. My gauges were still inside, but I got tired of reaching around the corny kegs to get to the gauges every time I wanted to adjust something and get everything tuned in. So the next thing I did was move the gauges outside, which was the last little project I did. So, but to be honest with you, I hate having to deal with moving everything around. For instance, this past couple of weeks, I was actually a keg or two ahead, and so I had an extra keg that I wanted to get chilled down and carbonate, or get some CO2 on it, and at least let it sit inside the kegerator there, and to basically see if I could get 4 kegs in there, since I hadn't really tried since I'd done moved everything out. But it was a pain in the ass, and especially when it comes down to the 2 kegs in the back run out, and you've got a full one up front, and you got to move everything out and stir the sediment up and reach back and get everything out and put the full ones towards the back and keep up with your lines. And I don't know, it's more of a pain than I ever thought it would be. I really didn't think it would be that much, and I guess it depends too on how much your beer flows and how much you have to swap out and everything. But mine seems to move on pretty good because I do have a lot of friends that come over, which I love. To share my beer with my friends and family, and plus I'm always taking bottles and growlers everywhere. So I just really wished I had went with a Keezer, or if you don't know what a Keezer is, it's a chest freezer converted to a kegerator, and most people call them a Keezer. So this is just sucking right now, having to deal with all the moving around, and I got 3 kegs in there now, and you can imagine with what space I've got there, trying to get a 4th one in there and having to move around all these lines and unplug everything and all that bull crap. Excuse me. So what am I going to do? First I'm going to get my beer. Cheers. Had to get a refill. What I'm going to do eventually is what I should have probably done from the get-go. And, when I first got this kegerator, when I got this refrigerator, I debated on whether to go with a freezer or a refrigerator. And I don't even remember why. I think it was floor space. I was thinking about, a chest freezer taking up, a chest freezer would basically take up the kegerator and the small refrigerator that I have there for other beers. Or whether it went this way, I don't know. But I think it was mainly floor space and not wanting to have to build a collar. I don't know why it was a big deal at the time, but this just seemed easier, and it was. But in hindsight, I wished I had went with a chest freezer, and so I don't have time right now, and I don't quite know what I'm going to do, but I will guarantee you that as soon as I can, this bad boy will be converted to a chest freezer for my kegerator. I don't want to have to deal with that. I want to be able to lift the lid like you can on a chest freezer and lift cornies in and out and not have to worry about moving everything around. Like I say, you live and learn, so it's all right. No big deal. And something else I can't decide, this is my fermentation chest freezer with my Johnson controller. So my first decision is whether or not to go ahead and use this as my Keezer and put a collar on it. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, instead of drilling holes in this, because usually there's lines, freon lines in all the sides, you don't want to be drilling in this. And I don't really want to put a tower or 2 towers on top because they're expensive and you have to deal with raising the lid and your tower's hitting the wall and all that crap. So most of you are familiar with it, but if you're not, most people will take this entire lid off and you'll make a collar out of either 2x4s or 2x6s, which is basically just a rectangular piece of wood that fits, flush with everything, and you'll mount the lid to that wood that you make up into a rectangle, and then you'll mount the what am I trying to think of, the hinges on the back onto that, and then you can drill your holes in the wood for your taps and your lines and all that stuff. And that way, when I raise the lid, all my little cornies will be sitting right there, and I can just lift them in and out and not have to deal with this. And I think this is a 9 cubic foot, so you can imagine how many corners I can get in this one. And I'm thinking about just going ahead and using something this size, and if I can find the same size, either convert that one or just get another one around that size. If I can find, I found that one on Craigslist for like $100. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'll either, like I say, do that. I'll either convert this one and get another one to use it as a fermenter, because this is a really good deal for a fermenter. And I guess it boils down to how much space I need for fermentation, and whether I need to upgrade or downgrade this, and I'll figure on all that later. But and then for my refrigerator that I've drilled holes in the doors, what will I do with it? My first thought was to bring it in here in this junk room and set it up and run it, and maybe buy a conical fermenter, like one of those plastic ones, nice 10 gallon or 15, whatever I can fit in there. and use it for that. But another thing I would have done different was to get a dual stage controller. And the A419 Johnson controller is a great controller, but when it comes springtime and fall time, when the temperatures are right in that area to where you might have to cool one day and you might have to heat it up the next day, it sucks coming down here and taking it apart and taking jumpers and moving them around. So that's another purchase that I'm looking at getting down the road, is a dual stage controller to where I don't have to flip, take apart and move jumpers around, so I can have a heating system in there and obviously the cooling system to do its own thing, so I don't have to fool with it, because I don't have to fool with it. So that's enough of that. Let's move on. But yeah, I'll definitely do something, and I'll just deal with the space issue in here. I don't think it'll be that big an issue if I move this out and put a chest freeze in there. If I have to get rid of the little wine chiller down there and put it in a different room, or move this to a different part of the room, whatever, I'll do what I have to do, because I ain't gonna deal with all that crap. I ain't doing it. I wish I hadn't done it, but there you go, live and learn. Oh, I didn't really tell you, change the subject here, change gears. And what I've got in here is just a basic pale ale that my buddy helped me brew. He's wanting to get into home brewing, and so we named this beer after him. His last name's Spear, so this is going to be Spear beer. It was a 10-gallon batch and split to 2 5-gallon fermenters, and Jake don't do secondaries anymore, so this has actually only been in here like 9 days. I think after tomorrow I'm going to keg the one with in the bucket, and I decided to do a little something different with the one in the better bottle. I added like an ounce of Riwaka dry hops, just because I've had them forever and I need to get rid of them, and be a little taste test since his it, and I'll give the 5 gallons or whichever one he wants, because I'm gonna split it with him, and he'll get 5 gallons and I'll get 5 gallons, and we'll see what the old Riwakas did for the dry hopping. And I finally got an outbuilding. Can't believe I've lived it where I've lived here for 19 years and I've never had an outbuilding. And it was long overdue. So I was able to clear a lot of junk out of this basement and make more room for brewing. So now I have actually this entire wall that I can use for all my brewing equipment and supplies. My new brew stand I've used a couple of times now. I should say my hot liquor tank stand. It's working out really well. The March pump is mounted back there. It's working out really well. Everything's going good. Boil kettle, it's the same as it's always been. I think maybe something else in my future for my home system might be a bigger mash tun, because the dogfish head, or this actually the frozen toes, is actually a dogfish head clone. It's not really tastes like it, but it's anyway. There was like a 1073 beer at 1.25 quarts per pound. I don't remember how many pounds of grains it was, but it maxed out my 52 quart Coleman Extreme cooler. It maxed it out. And this weekend I'm going to do a Bell's 2-hearted ale recipe, and it's going to be pushing it too. So I really need to get a bigger mash tun if I'm going to do some of these bigger IPAs. I really don't want to go below 1.25 quarts per pound. So that's another thing on the project list. Like I say, I guess it doesn't hurt to have a smaller mash tun, because you don't want so much, head space where you lose your heat and stuff. So I don't think that was a bad investment. But anyway, like I say, I got more room now to store stuff. I still need more room. But I've got my grains and my pots and my utensils and all this stuff, and I just happened to remember something else that happened. And I've got a 10-pound CO2 tank, and a week and a half ago, I guess it was, on this corny keg right here, It's actually a Firestone keg. Um, this little type of top-off valve, it leaked. It's been leaking. I knew it leaked. And what I would have to do was make sure I didn't have any noise in the room. And I could barely twist this thing and it would leak a little bit, and I could get it to the right spot and it wouldn't leak. Yeah, stupid me. I know I should have replaced it a long time ago. But basically what happened was, sorry, I had to burp. It leaked and I didn't catch it, and I lost all my CO2, so I had to spend like $40 to get my CO2 tank filled, and I lost probably, I don't know, it was getting close to being like maybe half empty or something. So I ended up just going ahead and buying a reconditioned lid from K Connection. And I know I could replace just this part, but I just decided to go ahead and get one. That way I have another lid on hand. Got a couple extra poppets, and on this keg, the out poppet was leaking. I could take off the post going to my tap and it would start leaking beer out everywhere. So I got a couple of replacement poppets for that corny keg. So there you go. I think that's about all I got to talk about. Oh, check it out. One more thing. This last weekend was July 4th, obviously, and we went to a beer and wine festival up in Floyd, Virginia, if any of you are familiar with it. Floyd Fest. And I was just so wore out from working so many hours all week. You know, it didn't take much for me to be done, but we had a good time, had great friends, so like 8 of us up there, and rented a cabin. And we just started out with the wine and did the wine part of it, and then moved over to the beer part of it. And myself and 2 of my friends started hitting up every vendor in there for goodies. So scored a few things, and one of the nicer signs that I got was this one from Long Trail Brewing Company. I remember they had a pretty decent IPA that I tried, so I don't know if any of you folks are familiar with them. Bridgewater Corners, Vermont. I had never heard of them until this weekend, so I got one of their little flags they had tied up. The guy was really cool about it. Got a little Hopsecutioner info sheet they had on the table for that one. And my buddy got me a Bridgeport, DJ got me, I think it was DJ, got me the Bridgeport banner. They had a lot of these banners like this, and my other buddy Philip and DJ, I don't know who got all these, and I can't even remember what they are. There's like 3 or 4 of them there. I haven't taken them apart to see what they are, but probably what I'll do is cut the center, cut the circle out on these and get them laminated for the man cave down here. Some of these little parts, of course, obviously I don't want to hang that whole big banner, but that was pretty cool. It was a really fun event, and it was really fun. I'll just leave it at that. I may throw up the video sometime of our little the video that I did of all of us there. So, all right, I don't guess I have anything else to talk about. So, questions, comments about anything I've talked about, maybe before long. Like I say, this weekend I'm brewing 10 gallons of a Bell's 2 Hearted Ale recipe. I don't know how close it'll be, but may video some of that since I haven't videoed any brewing lately, and just trying to think, make sure ain't nothing else I want to say. Brew on.